Delicious gluten-free lamingtons. Hi, I'm Bro and welcome to Believe It's Not Gluten, the home of amazing recipes for the gluten intolerant. Amazing because they taste so good that no one will know they're gluten-free. If you loved lamingtons before you became gluten-free, you'll be thrilled with these. They're even better. The cake is pretty simple: butter, sugar, eggs, milk and the flour mix. So start by turning your oven on to preheat and then get a large cake tin or baking tray lined and greased. This is a non-stick pan, but it's still worth just putting a piece of greaseproof paper in the bottom just to make sure nothing sticks. Then measure 125 grams of nice soft butter into a large mixing bowl and cream your butter and sugar. There's a large ratio of sugar to butter here, so it's better to add the sugar gradually, otherwise it will fly all over your kitchen. I usually start with a small amount and then add a couple more bigger lots until it's all in. If you're using a stand mixer, you can just put it all in together. And you won't be able to get it all soft and pale and well creamed at this stage because there's not much butter. So it takes a little while. Now with this cake, it's much easier to manage the dipping later on when the cake is frozen. So make it a day ahead if you can, and then wrap the cake or put it in an airtight container in the freezer overnight, or at least for a few hours. Once the butter and sugar are well mixed, add your eggs and vanilla, and then you can beat it well until it's pale in colour and quite smooth, probably at least a couple of minutes on high speed. Scrape down the sides of the bowl as you need to. You can see here it gets pale and creamy. It will still be gritty to the touch though, so don't worry about that. Once that's done, you just need to add the dry ingredient mix, the milk and half a cup of boiling water. So add about 1/3 of the flour mix and half the milk. Stir it a bit first before you turn on the mixer so the flour doesn't fly everywhere, and beat only until just smooth. Then add another 1/3 of the flour mix and the rest of the milk and beat again for a short time. It's all approximate amounts, just guess about 1/3 of the flour. You don't have to be worrying about that. Then add the final flour and mix again. Scrape down the sides of the bowl along the way as you need to, and it will be pretty thick and stiff at this stage. So now add the boiling water and mix it quite well now until it's nice and smooth. And that's it. Pour it into your cake tin and smooth it out. You can see it's not a thin mix like some cake mixes. It is thick but pourable. So it goes into a slow to moderate oven for around 30 minutes. And then, as with all gluten-free cakes, the only way to test that the cake is cooked is by pressing gently with your finger in the middle of the cake and testing that it has a firm cooked texture under the surface. And there are hints for this over on the blog. Once it comes out, loosen the edges with a knife or a spatula and then tip it onto a wire rack. Remove the paper from the bottom of the cake, turn it back the other way and allow it to cool completely, then wrap it and freeze it. Once the cake's frozen, you can make the icing. So you need to sift the icing sugar first, and it's easiest to do this in your food processor. So put all the dry ingredients in together, icing sugar, cocoa powder and some GF flour, and process until the lumps are all gone. Then into a saucepan add your butter. You really don't have to weigh it out, just a couple of tablespoons is fine. and add the water and the dry ingredients. Stir over medium heat until everything is dissolved. Bring to the boil and boil gently for a minute. I'm just sneaking in the vanilla here, I forgot it before. Then let it cool until it's just warm. If you're in a hurry, put it in a sink of cold water while you set everything up and it should be fine. You don't want it to get too cold or it gets too thick to dip the lamingtons. I just made half the icing and I'm just using half the cake at the moment for dipping. So cut the frozen cake into whatever size lamingtons you want. Cut off the edges first. These are going to be pretty big lamingtons. Then set up your dipping system. I prefer to tip the icing into a bowl, so I have a deep rather than a shallow bowl of icing, but you can leave it in the saucepan if you like. Then you need a plate or tray with a wire rack for draining and a tray with coconut for rolling. Then it's just a case of dipping the cake pieces into the icing, move them around with a couple of forks to cover them, tap them a few times to drain off the excess, and then let them finish draining on the rack. You don't have to be too careful here. If there are a few bits that aren't covered as well as others, it won't matter. Once drained, move them to the coconut and roll them to cover them well with coconut. They do need plenty of coconut on them because the icing soaks up some of the coconut as they sit. Once they're drained, you can scrape the excess icing back into the bowl. It just may be a bit cold and thick, so you may need to re-warm the icing, either put it in the saucepan on the stove for a minute or into the microwave. The last one often doesn't get covered as well as the others, but it's still fine. So there you have it. These are rather large. You can slice into the topper and fill with whipped cream, whatever size you make, or just cut them in half to serve them, or top them with whipped cream and a strawberry. Delicious, soft and moist lamingtons, and better than any that all the non-gluten-free people can buy in the shops. Please visit the blog for the full recipe and plenty of tips so that you can make this successfully yourself. If you like this, please subscribe to our channel below and give us a thumbs up. Make your comments or questions or requests here or join us on Facebook, and please share our videos as much as you can. Thank you for watching, and believe it, it's not gluten.